Whether it's because you don't have time for doodles or decoration, or if you're just looking for something simpler, then you have come to the right place. Today we are looking at 6 different weekly layouts that you can do if you're a little bit pinched for time. Our main supplies for today are going to be a pen and a marker. I'm using the Zig Clean Color dot marker, but don't feel like you have to. This is just going to come in handy for some of the design work that I'm going to be doing. But a regular marker will work just fine. Or you could just use the pen. Let's get into it. Our first idea is a simple one-page weekly where we have sections for each of the days of the week running down the left-hand side, and then just a running to-do list on the right-hand side of that page. I am aware that the 1st of February is not a Monday for 2023, but as this was just an idea, I just labeled the day as number 1. This side of the page could be used for something like your events or day-specific tasks that you want to do, whereas this one can just be a running to-do list for things you can do any day. This one was super quick to set up. You of course don't have to use the dot marker to put in the dots for each of the tasks. If you wanted, you could do it just as black pen, or you could use a different type of marker to highlight each of the days of the week, or if you wanted to get a little fancy, you could highlight every second row or something like that. But as we're time-pinched people at the moment, this one, nice and quick to set up. The second one is another one-page weekly, but this time we have the page divided into 8 sections, so 2 sections across and 4 sections down. Again, I'm just using the dot marker to mark in where those events and tasks would go for each of the days of the week, and we also have a separate section for a to-do list because 7 days of the week plus 1 gives us the 8 boxes that we have on the layout. You don't actually have to put the dots in ahead of time for each of these different sections. You could just write the headers out, which will also save you time. Flipping over though and getting into our next idea, this one is a weekly spread or a 2-page weekly. This layout is particularly good if you need a lot of writing space for each of the weekdays, but for the weekend you don't need quite as much space. Both of the pages are effectively split into 3 columns, with each of those columns being 8 boxes across and then 1 box divider between each of the columns. Doing divisions like this quickly really comes with experience. The more you use the same type of bullet journal, or at least a bullet journal that has the same spacing across and vertically, the easier it is to remember those divisions. You can always, of course, use a ruler to do the divisions as you go, or you could set yourself up something like a grid spacing cheat sheet or a grid spacing bookmark to help yourself out. In this video, I'm just using a ruler anytime I need to do a division that I'm not so familiar with, but because I've been bullet journaling for a while now, doing regular divisions like dividing a page into thirds both vertically and horizontally, that kind of stuff I'm quite familiar with. A nice way to add some visual interest to your page without going kind of overboard with decoration is just to use a kind of varied color palette. So for the dots we've put in so far, these are in a kind of light green-gray color, but I can add some visual interest by adding a secondary color, or another color. In this case, I'm going to be using another Zig Clean Color dot marker because they're nice and fast to use, but this one's in a kind of light tan brown color, and just by adding that in gives us something else that's kind of adding visual interest. Just makes the page look a little bit more decorative, but we didn't have to do any kind of hardcore doodling or painting or sticker work. Those stickers are a really easy way to add some extra decoration into your layouts without having to spend a whole bunch of time on them. So those could just be either the events for those days or tasks for those days. Again, you don't have to put the dots in ahead of time, you can just write them in with your black pen. But so you can kind of see how this layout would work, I wanted to put them in for you. As mentioned, you can add decoration to a page by using something like stickers, or you could of course use something like washi tape. I have this super gorgeous washi tape from the washi tape shop, and I'm going to add a couple of pieces of washi tape into this layout just to show you how quickly and easily you could decorate it if you wanted to. Just because the weekly is set up quickly doesn't mean it can't be decorative as well. But flipping on over, we're going to do another weekly spread, so 2 pages for this weekly. This is another style that's good if you want more space for your weekdays and less space for your weekends, but rather than being a vertical style weekly log, this one is a horizontal. The left-hand page has a space for 3 days of the week, so 12 boxes down for each of the sections, whereas on the right-hand side, while we still have 12 boxes down for each of the 3 kind of rows, the last row is split in half vertically, so we have a space for Saturday and Sunday. You could of course just leave that space as a weekend space, rather than splitting it into the 2 separate days, but this is another layout that is still super quick to set up. Again, we could add some decoration into this, whether that be doodling or stickers or washi or whatnot, but as it stands, the layout is super simple to set up. Flipping over for idea number 5 though, and this one is going to be another full page weekly, but this time we're going to use a ruler. On the previous layouts, we didn't use a ruler because I often find that using a ruler to rule lines actually ends up taking more time, and if you don't have a lot of time, then maybe using the ruler could be detrimental, but given the simplicity of the line work we're doing on this one, it isn't too bad. If you were trying to rule individual enclosed spaces for each of the days of the week and other elements on the page, then all that line ruling would certainly add up, and that's why if I want to set up a weekly in a hurry, I typically avoid the ruler. Other things that I'll avoid are things like mini calendars because they take a long time to draw up, and I'll also just cut down on the other elements that I might include in the weekly. So I might not have things like a meal log or a weekly reflection space or a note space, whereas on typical weeks where I'm not feeling as time pinched, I may still include those things. You may note that one of the spaces that I ruled out on this layout was a little bit taller than the other ones. This can unfortunately happen, which is why I typically like to go in with pencil first, just to mark out where everything's going to go. While this can add to the time taken, which might not necessarily be ideal if you're in a bit of a time pinch, it does indeed save time if you end up making an error that you then have to fix. For this mistake in particular, I don't feel the need to fix it because it is just a layout idea, but if you are looking to recreate it in your journal, do be sure to be mindful of your spacing. We're just going to pretend that this person had a particularly busy Thursday and really needed that extra line, but the nice part about a layout like this is that you do end up with an equal amount of space for each day of the week, including the weekend. A nice big to-do list section here, which you could split in half vertically if you wanted even more spaces to write, and maybe if your tasks don't actually take up the full span of the page. But flipping over and onto another idea. For this one, we're going to do something that you wouldn't typically expect with layouts that are fast or weekly logs for people who are in a bit of a time crunch, and we're going to make a Dutch door. The type of Dutch door in particular that we're going to be making is what we call a vertical Dutch door, and these ones are much easier to make compared to their horizontal counterparts. This just involves cutting away part of the edge of the page on the right-hand side of the layout to expose part of the spread underneath. Dutch door layouts can be really helpful if you have a lot going on in a week and you need even more writing space than a regular spread can provide. On this one we do again have a section for each day of the week that is the same size, and we've also got some spaces for dedicated task lists. By this I mean we have a section for work tasks, we have a section for personal tasks, cleaning tasks, and then other. This would be for somebody who has a lot going on in any given week and has a lot of stuff that they want to write down, or maybe they want to use these spaces for journaling or something else. Again, a layout like this could be made more decorative by adding in some washi stickers or highlighting every second line, bringing in some doodles, or just some colour to the layout. I really do think that a lot of the weekly layouts we see online can be made much more simple by just stripping it back to the bare bones of the layout. So where have they placed the titles? What kind of spacing are they using? That kind of stuff. If you were looking for simple ways to decorate your weekly layouts though, I do have a video dedicated to that topic, which is in the top right hand corner here. Or if you were wondering what kind of things you could include on a weekly layout, then the one at the bottom is for you. Click or tap on either of those and I'll see you over there.